Welcome to the Art of Podcast. That's all about figuring it out as we go. I'm Emma Riedl, your host. And just like you, I have no idea what I'm doing, so take it with a grain of salt. But on this podcast, we'll dive into the ups, downs, and everything in between, talking about the art of doing you, whatever that looks like today. So take what you need and leave what you don't, because the rest is all yours. Enjoy. All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Art of Podcast. I always want to call it the old title. Who actually knows? We're still getting used to it. But I just want to announce it. I don't think TikTok is actually going to be banned at all in the slightest. I think there's, I'm not a huge conspiracy theorist, but I think there's like some behind the scenes of something going on, and I think it really will come back, and it did, because I don't know if some of you guys saw it, but at whatever time it was, they had like a weird message of like President Trump is working hard to get this back for you, and then you couldn't scroll, it kind of crashed out, and then apparently today you can go back on it, and there's a message that says, thanks to our president, Donald Trump, he has worked hard to get TikTok bought by like a U.S. company or like something like that. Just like weird messages. I just think it's crazy that the app would be banned when it is a huge part of our economy and there's so many businesses and creators there and it brings in so much money. And also, like, what are all of these TikTok full-time employees going to do? I just feel like it's not going to be banned more for like economy purposes. So, but of course, like I had to indulge in the scrolling of everyone telling the secret about their pages. If we're all going to die, like there's one thing I have to tell you, then it like leaves a piece of information about their content. Like maybe it was a foodie and they're like, I didn't eat all the food. Or I saw one where like I didn't actually do the workouts, or Diplo and I blank. Like that was my favorite one. Top one. But I definitely indulged in the scroll, loved it. And I came across this like compilation of the best sounds. And that was my favorite video that I saw out of the entire scrolling night. Where it was like, my Shayla, or they're not going to know. How are they going to, like those type of sounds? That was awesome. But I was like thinking, I was like, what's my favorite TikTok trend of 2024 that I've seen recently? And I was thinking, and I couldn't remember exactly what it was like. I'm so lucky that, or I am so privileged that. And I obviously can't, go on the app. It's like scaring me. So I'm not going to go on the app today, even though it's back. But I wasn't able to go on and fact check myself. But my favorite trend of 2024 was, it'd be like a carousel of photos. I am so lucky that and then it'd be like colon, and then it would have some caption. And some of the examples were, I'm so lucky that I am tired after a full weekend of plans. I'm so lucky that I feel uncomfortably full after a huge meal. I'm so lucky that I'm hungover after hanging out with my girlfriends too late. I'm so lucky that I'm stressed about a 9-to-5 that pays the bills and allows me to live the life that I'm living. Things where it's like you think they're bad things, and it just kind of puts it into this perspective and like checks your privilege, honestly. So it was super, that was awesome. A little reflective TikTok moment. I also love social media, even though, I did take that 2-week break. I think that's the best part, is that it's always going to be there. You can take the break or come back. But I think it's great for connecting. I learn a lot of things from it. I mean, I'm definitely slightly addicted, which is the bad part of it. But I don't know. The good outweighs the bad. It's however you think about it. But apparently it's back. So there we have that. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is I obviously live in LA, and I've been thinking a lot about the LA community here, because the fires are absolutely tragic and they're still going on. And this is January 19th and they're still going. Even if you might not see as much traction on social media, they are still going. And there's so many resources to donate and to volunteer. But really, like, just do what you can, help those that need it. And I think I'm a huge believer that good karma comes back to you. Like the energy you put out is the energy you give in. But it's really devastating to see the people that are affected. I was not personally affected, but I feel like we're all like 1 degree, away from someone who was. So it is absolutely heartbreaking. It was a really anxious week here. But just so you know, I've saved and shared a lot of resources. There's a ton of creators that have like Tinks, Brett's Bites, like so many more. There's a huge, and I shared this on, actually I posted it on Instagram and I posted it on LinkedIn, but there's a huge Mutual Aid LA is a huge page with all the resources in a spreadsheet. You can even like map it on Google Maps, so places to donate, volunteer, etc. After this, I'm actually going to drop off some meals to firefighters. So just do what you can. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on that because it's near and dear to my heart, obviously. And that goes into the whole podcast episode. What to expect 2 years after moving to a new city. I am at 2 years into being an LA resident, which is crazy. This is longer than I lived in Chicago. I grew up 3 hours outside of Chicago. I went to school at the University of Illinois, which is 4 hours south of Chicago. So that's probably the longest place that I've lived outside of, high school. But like outside of any high school, college, I've now officially lived in LA the longest. And I want to break it down because you guys liked when I talked about what it took to like move to a new city. But I want to break down the timeline of all the feelings and like the phases of moving to a new city and like when it starts to feel like home, because it doesn't happen in your first 3 months, in your first 6 months. It didn't even happen in my first year. Like it started to, but I'll get into that a little bit more. So if you're moving to a new city, one, I congratulate you. This is a huge step. You're about to hit so much growth. There's so much opportunity. There's so many people. It's really the most like energizing feeling. I'm really proud that I did it and I absolutely love it. I think you guys have heard me talk about I have the best experience with friends and roommates, but it didn't go without a bunch of effort, right? So I'm going to talk about that. So if you're thinking of moving to a new city, or you just moved to a new city, or you're like a year in and you're like, so when are these things going to click? I'm going to talk about how they're going to click, when they're going to click, and then some ways to wrap it all up. So for context, I moved to LA in the beginning of January 2023. I moved from Chicago. I moved here. I've been in the same apartment. I moved in with my roommate, and she was a friend of a mutual friend. Ended up, she's the bee's freaking knees. She's been on the podcast, Haley Sianis. You guys can go listen to that episode because that was super fun. But I also moved out here with no solid friend girl group. So it took a lot of time, effort, and energy to really really to make and solidify friendships. So I moved here, my boyfriend was here, and I just was like, okay, I do not want to be the girl that moves to a new city and only hangs out with her boyfriend. So how do you make friends in a new city? The best piece of advice that I can give you is do it while you're doing it something socially and something that you enjoy, because that way you're going to likely meet people that have the same interests, energy, and you're already like aligned in something. So you don't have to like do like a precursor of, oh, does she like to go to cafes? Does she like this cocktail bar? If you meet them there, you already know. So just really try that. I did a lot of workout classes. I met one of my good friends at a workout class who ended up being a mutual friend because I saw her at a party that I was at, and then I saw her at the workout class, and I was like, oh, were you at this birthday party? Which was my own. But anyway, she was at the same workout class. I met another girl through a Facebook page, and she was looking for a roommate, and I was like, I don't have a roommate, but I just moved here. I'm looking for friends. Would you want to get a glass of wine some night? And then we did. And then it's like after you make those first initial moves, it's like, okay, then what's your next move? I also met a lot of people through mutual friends, and even mutual friends where I was like, I'm not even that close to you, but could you connect me with this person? And so once you get that first connection, or you see them and you're like, I think I want to introduce myself, one, do it, but I'm going to kind of go through what that first conversation will look like. So when you are maybe at a cocktail bar or you're out and about and you see, someone and you're like, okay, maybe they're paying the bill, they're standing by the bar, and you want to just like start up a conversation, it really is super easy in the best way of like give them a compliment. Maybe you're like, oh my gosh, I love your bag. I love your shoes, something they're wearing. This might be so weird, but I was watching you and I just love your energy. Or, I just need to let you know, like, you're beautiful. Like any comment, like it might sound cliche. Making friends is a lot like dating. I'm just going to put it out there. It's going to feel awkward. And there are going to be times where it's like, oh my God, that was so cheesy, but it works. So make that first statement, right? And then hopefully, they're welcoming. If they're not perfect, you don't want to be friends with them already. It's like, okay, you already know. But get into like a small talk conversation, because the longer you're talking to them, the more you can gauge, okay, like, am I going to vibe with this person? Is she sweet? You're not going to know if you're going to be best friends right away. I mean, a lot of times you might, like if you're a good reader on people, but depending on, you might not know. And so a lot of the things that I like to ask, okay, now you want to get on the common ground of, do they live here? Do they live around here? So one time I was out and I was like, oh my gosh, like, I love your purse. Then we got talking about it and she's like, oh, thank you. It's from Reformation. We got talking about Reformation and it was like, oh, I just moved to Culver City. I know there's like a Reformation at the platform. I'll need to check it out. Have you been, or do you know of like good Reformation stores around here? Or you could be like, okay, love Reformation. You're like, I don't want to be weird. I just moved here. Do you live in the area? And they're either going to be like yes or no. And again, then you can ask questions about the area. Do you like this cocktail bar? What are some recommendations of dinners? I'm looking to go to dinners and bars and like meet people more. What are some good places to do that? And if they're receptive to like those types of questions and giving you recommendations, they're probably receptive to giving you their number and being their friend and kind of welcoming you a little bit. So that's normally where I like to, after I ask for a rec of like the local area, I like to be like, you know what, like, this might be weird, but I'm new to the area. I'm looking for friends. Can I get your number? Maybe we can go grab coffee sometime. And a lot of the times they'll be like, yeah. And perfect. I've actually never had anyone say no. I have had it where it's like they say yes, you get their number. And then the next, after you get their number, it's like texting them. It's literally like dating, you guys. And I've had it where sometimes you'll like try and text plans and it just like doesn't work. And then it like fizzles and you never end up seeing them again. Totally fine. Like, they weren't your friend anyway, and the purpose, you're not losing a friend. You're still right where you started. Or they're going to be amazing and they're going to be like, yeah, let's get coffee. How about, this place, or I want to try a new place. Give me take their rec. And then you meet them there. And so, okay, now you're on the friend date. You're on the friend date. The best piece of advice when you're on the friend date is be a good listener. Because, it's going to be small talk. It might seem a little awkward, a little superficial. I love, like, dating and small talk. I just think it's fun. I get energized from it. But you need to be a good listener because you're going to take one piece of information that they said. And, like, after a few days, after half a week goes by, follow up. Hey, how was that dinner that you had at X? Hey, how was your night out? How was your trip to San Diego? Hey, I'm looking for this. Can I get another rec? Some follow-up text, so then you can like have a little bit of stream of conversation, and it's also putting in the effort. So you're making friends, and now once you like have that little connection, you have to keep up with it. And so I did this for my first like pretty regular, like my first 6 months. Okay, like I was like, okay, I'm gonna like get girls' numbers, make friends with them, yada yada. I actually was doing this podcast then, so if I really clicked with them, I would even ask them to be a podcast guest. And that was so much fun because it was sharing more about me while also learning about them. I know not everyone has a podcast, but if you can like find a hobby to then like ask them to join you on, whether it's hiking or Pilates, or maybe you guys want to try a cooking class or like something you guys can connect on, maybe it's shopping, like really try and just do that, because you're going to need more ideas than just like going out to drinks and going to grab coffee. Because your first 6 months, it's all about effort and that consistency. Now it sounds like a whole thought out thing. But the biggest thing is you need to hang out because that's how you get closer with everyone. And I would say like the first 6 months are very much planned hangouts. And I would say once you hit closer to like that 1 year mark, that's when I started like, okay, it's not always a planned hangout. Now the inside jokes are flowing, right? Now I'm sending you TikToks. Now I'm sending you memes. Now I'm on your couch hungover. Now we're having movie nights. Now you're in my bed sleeping over, And it was like that 1 year little and some change maybe that really started happening. So your first 6 months, like just think about it as consistency. Don't think you're going to find your best friends right away. And if you do, that's great. But you still need to be consistent. Like every single relationship works 2 ways. So make those plans. I would say make a plan, like 1 to 2 new friend plans a week. I was probably doing like 2 to 3 because I would do it like grab wine on the like weekends, and then I would have coffee dates. So it would be like a little bit different midweek and weekend. But I feel like there's also this stage you go when you move to a new city and you're making friends where you go from like the weeknight, like casual, like 1 hour hangs to then you graduate to being a weekend friend to then you graduate to being a couch hang friend. And those are like the stages. So it's like your first 6 months and then you get like the year. And then like, I mean, once you really hit it, you're like sleeping in each other's beds, right? Like we're talking about everything under the sun. And that's where I'm, and like, trust me, it's phenomenal, but it doesn't go without effort. So you make your friends, all right? How do you keep friends? This is pretty much just beating a dead horse at this point with consistency. But you have to be a good listener. You have to find that common ground. And every time you're with them, like pick out something that you want to follow up with them on. And I will say, like, pay attention to who you feel good around. I've been on girl dates before where maybe I hung out with them 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, and it's been great. And then it's either, you don't talk and it just like totally fizzles, or, you're like more just like really quaint friends or Instagram friends. But I mean, also give people like, granted, I'm someone like, I'm always busy. I have like everything planned out. And a lot of my friends here are too. So even some of my better friendships that I love and really admire, we don't see each other that often. It doesn't matter about how often you see each other as much as like the quality of the conversations and consistency of like when you're trying to text them and like catch up with them. That really goes back to the effort. And so you can totally build like a friendship, not always seeing each other if you guys have that like mutual known thing that you guys are like really busy. But I will say it takes 2. You need to see them responding to your text, you trying to hang out. It is a relationship. So you keep friends by listening, following up, making plans, paying attention to how you feel. And also if you're like, there was one, so I was like, okay, I have been hanging out. I've been doing the dates. We did coffee date. We did wine. We did a workout class. There was like a darty. I was like, I'm just going to invite them and see if they want to come. Even like some could and some couldn't. Even if they couldn't come, you just rip the Band-Aid though off of like, okay, I want to drink with you. Like, okay, I want to party with you. Like, I want to be more casual than a cappuccino at wherever, La La Land, Superba, Pete's. I don't really know. I'm not a huge coffee person. I don't know like the most famous in all the cities. But you just asking and making that effort rips off the Band-Aid. Want to go to this party with me? Hey, I'm hungover. Like if you know you both went out, want to go grab a burrito? Like you just ripping off the Band-Aid for some of those more casual hangouts gets them interested, that they know that you then are like, okay, this is kind of where I see the friendship. So I would say 2 years, and I'm at the point where I am on the couches. I'm crying in front of them. I'm opening up in front of them. I know about their families. Like they know all the updates, different group messages with names. I've been here for 2 years. That started probably over a year. But then like really feeling comfortable with it and just being like, yeah, like this is it. A year and some change, 3 months, 4 months, probably closer to like a year and 3 months. And I was like, yeah, like this is it. So it'll take time. Be patient, but have fun with it. I mean, the best part about making friends and moving to a new city is you're also learning about yourself. And I want to touch on the importance of self when you move to a new city, because you're going to grow and change so much. I mean, essentially, you have closed one chapter of your life and opened a new one, and you're shedding layers. Maybe you're into new things. Maybe you're like, I did a lot of going out and only eating and drinking, and I want to explore more art, fashion, personalities, books, places of the city. Like, lean into that. If you have that inkling, go and do it. And then pay attention to the people who are also going to do that, because that's where you find people with a like-minded thing, and just have fun with it. I think the biggest thing about moving to a new city is it's going to be a social experiment for a little bit. Learn to laugh at it. Learn that it's going to feel uncomfortable, and have so much fun with it, because you're going to grow so much. And when you do that growth and you're working on yourself and you're welcoming things, like you're welcoming being uncomfortable, you're welcoming being a little bit awkward, you're also giving yourself that grace and forgiveness if things don't go your way. Because I think that's the biggest thing we're afraid of, right? We're afraid of that change. We're afraid of feeling uncomfortable, and then we're afraid of it going wrong. I just wasted all that time. I just wasted all that effort. But so much more has come from that. And now you have a story that you can probably text your home friends in that group chat. Hey, oh my God, I was just set up with this crazy experience. Oh my God, you cannot believe what I did last night. Oh, and then perfect, you have a story and you're still connecting with your friends from home. There's always a silver lining to this. So focus on yourself, but make sure you're surrounding yourself with good people. Two things can be right. Two things can be true. I think that's the saying. I also want to touch on like what it feels like when you go home. So I went home for the first time after moving. Oh my gosh, I saw my family for the first time in March in Amsterdam. And then I remember going home for the first time at the 4th of July. So that was like 6-7 months. And going home from the 4th of July, I'd been in LA for like 7 months. I was excited to get back. I was really like, things were still new. I was planning things. I still had my friends. Like, I had this life where I was like, okay, I can't like leave it. Like, I can't leave all these things I'm building or it's going to like dwindle. So I was like really excited to get back. So that was like a really good thing. But I will say, after your 6 months home, for some reason, for me, the goodbyes felt a little bit harder. Like I was leaving a part of me still there. And a part of me will always be small town, always be in Chicago. But it felt like I was always in two places. And it honestly still kind of does, even to this day. And I'm now at year 2. And I always feel like there's, part of me, because my family and my people I love and my close girlfriends are there. A part of me will always be there. But I have a home in LA. And it finally started feeling like, I'm not coming here just to make friends and have so much fun and make all these plans. I'm kind of coming here to like live my life and build a life still. Like I'm seeing like things more long term and not just next weekend to the next weekend. I'm not just living for the weekends anymore. And that really started happening, I want to say at the year of like a year and a half, where I was like, I'm not just living for the weekends and living for these plans. I mean, yes, like I cherish my weekends, but I'm thinking like more long term, like, okay, like I know I'm going to be here in like 6 months, right? Maybe what is this next year going to look like for me? Like, what do I really want to be Emma in LA in like the next year? Things just start becoming more like home and you're just more comfortable. I mean, you have your go-to spots. LA just feels like home. So when you go home or you go back to, for me, it's Chicago, a few feelings come up. One, it's comforting, right? Like I know everything there. I know all my people. I know the spots. I know my restaurants. I know the things I want to see, all of that. So there's something feeling so comforting. I know I'm not going to feel uncomfortable there. I know what to expect. But there's also a new like sense of pride. And I think that's because of growth. Like you go there and you haven't seen so many people in so long. Like you have a lot of updates. You're probably seeing people now on like 4 times a year basis. So you have like 3 months to catch up on, maybe 6 months. So there's like something to come back when you move home. And I mean, I'm speaking from having a pretty good experience moving to a new city. But even like when I was like going through losing a job and like therapy, there was still something coming home of like, yeah, like I don't have a lot of like these things that you probably would expect a 25-year-old to have. But like, I love where I live, or I'm proud of like knowing that my Trader Joe's is an 8-minute walk door to door, and I know exactly where to find the broccoli in aisle 2 in the freezer section, right? Like, there's something really prideful to be like, I created another life outside of here, and you guys know me still, but you guys also know like that past version. So it's like an updated version of you that they keep seeing. It's like fresh and new, and I feel very prideful about that. Literally, even when I didn't have a job and I was going through a breakup, and like when I thought my life was going to shit multiple times last year, there's still some sense of pride because I was still doing the damn thing. And so that's kind of just like what I wanted to really encompass is, if you're thinking of moving, please do it. Listen how to make friends, listen how to keep them, be a good listener, focus on self the entire way. Trust me, biggest thing, and just do the damn thing. And I can go into any more details if you guys want, but that's it. So I hope you guys have a good week, and I guess we're hanging out on Instagram. I'm going to try and be better on socials, but one thing at a time. Talk later. Bye.